Ne je ne go wo wo be ha den ste. Ne je ne go digin go be ha den ste. Hey yana hey 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 yana. Ne je ne go wo wo yoth gwe be ha den ste. Ne je ne go wo wo be ne ta.
What awołí means to me is that it is up to me to get the job done and to do my best.
What awołí means to me is to be strong in your decision making and to have the strength and courage to do what you need to do.
Akondashi ajabe she'in na'ish sh'ot koholish akodit awołí ha'ish oliya chetat no joe altsab belganik chobe khishna awołí no yega alla en leche nina halongat oliya ba'kunsan lelchinda oltkhaj eta ilho awołí shiyaja inlkha arobohol jin pichno joe hot esat awołí nini hot ba'kunsan no.
When I hear the phrase awołí, I think of when you are out cheering and you're trying to catch one of those last withers and he flies through the air, headbutts you in the eye, leaves you with a nice bruiser, and then you continue cheering. You get it done. You figure out a way to make it work despite everything that may be mounting against you. That's what I think about. And then you plan the next butchering.
Man, there's a song from Bruce Springsteen, and it's our anthem song, because when we're down and out, I put that song on, and it says there's going to be hard times coming, there's going to be good times coming, but there's also going to be hard times coming. Swing that ball at me, because I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to work hard. I'm going to work as hard as I can to do what needs to be done. It's just being honest and upfront and working your butt off. Bring that wrecking ball on is all I can say, and that's what the word is that.
Ne je ne go digin go be ha den ste. Hey yana hey 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 yana. Ne je ne go wo wo se na gwe be ha den ste. Ne je ne go wo wo be ke ho jon be ha den ste. Ne je ne go digin go be ha den ste. Hey yana hey 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 yana. Ne je ne go wo wo be ha den ste. Ne je ne go wo wo be ha den ste. Ne je ne go digin go be ha den ste. Hey yana hey 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 yana.
Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Christine Ami. I am joining you from Sadie, Arizona over at Diné College from within our house. We are still in lockdown. I wanted to say thank you to everybody. Go ahead and jump on into today's lecture. We're super excited about here at NCAP and over at Diné College's Fine Arts program. We have Beverly Blacksheep here with us. For those of you guys who aren't familiar with her work, I hope that you got a chance to take a look at some of those images that were the paintings that were presented in the beginning of our intro, but you can obviously see the background with Ms. Blacksheep in one of her studio areas in her home. So without further ado, I am hoping that Beverly, you will be able to go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we're going to go ahead and start discussing some really important topics, not just for the fine arts world, but that are close to home for Navajo painters as well. So Beverly, welcome.
Hello. Hello, everyone out there. My name is Beverly Blacksheep, and I will introduce myself in Navajo first. She'e Beverly Blacksheep Yinishe, Twitch Inchle, Cutnessani Bushes Chin, my Deshkishi Dashachedo, the Bethlehem E Dashanale, Nele Baluk Ade Nasha. My name is Beverly Blacksheep, and I am from Salina Springs, Arizona, a place called Balakai Mesa, and I grew up there. My clans are Bitterwater, and my paternal clan is Tango clan, and my grandfather's clan are Coyote Pass people, and my paternal grandfathers were Blacksheep, and that's where I get my name. My Nolly was a well-known medicine man. They used to call him Mr. Blacksheep. So my dad's the only one that carried his name, so that's where I get that Blacksheep name. I have been painting for more than, I'd say, about 35 years now, and most of my paintings depict a lot of nature and some of the scenery and things from my experience since growing up on the reservation. I went to school at NAU. I've been mostly self-taught most of my life, but I feel like I'm still learning. That's pretty much what I've been doing for the past 35 years. And today we're on lockdown, so well, actually we're not. It was this weekend, but I feel like I've been on a constant lockdown for the past month. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free to tell me right now.
Well, we definitely welcome you, and thank you for joining us, Beverly. We're excited to have you on board. How did you find this medium of artwork that you are constantly creating and working with?
I didn't get into art until later on during my college years, and I started painting maybe in the early 1980s, I think, when my son was about 4 years old. I was studying interior design, and we did a lot of interior design projects. And I think we had like color and design classes where we had to buy all these paintbrushes and learn about color and form and all these other things. So that kind of piqued my interest in painting. And then I had a boring desk job. I was doing work study at NAU, and I was doodling. And my boss didn't care. She actually was one of the first people who bought one of my pieces, and she continued to collect them throughout my college years. And she has a good collection of early Blacksheep paintings from the early 80s. And her name was Betty Byers, by the way. And she showed some of my work to other people, and then that's when I started to get a following. So I think my first painting I sold was like $35. And I thought, oh wow, being a college student and barely getting by, I thought, oh man, maybe I can sell some of my work. So I started walking around downtown and talking to different gift shops, because there were a lot of Native art venues downtown in Flagstaff at the time. And I ran into a couple of people who were very encouraging, and they saw something in my work, even though it wasn't that great at the time. I remember I walked into Abraham Begay's shop. He's a well-known silversmith, and I still remember to this day how he encouraged me to keep going. He said, you have something special. Continue. So that was all these years. And I continued with my education and ended up working for a while for Goodwill Industries. And then I had a back injury that sent me back home to the res. This is about maybe late 80s, around there. And I I started picking up the brush again and started painting to support myself, because at the time I couldn't really do much with my back that way. So I ran into a couple people downtown in Gallup, and one the camera shop, they had a little gallery next door. It was run by Nello. I don't remember his last name, but he was a kind Italian guy who really liked my work, and he try to different things. But at that time, I was doing a lot of the old Begay, Baton Yas. One of my favorites was Gerald Naylor, and I really liked the work. I was fortunate enough to, during the later years, to meet Harrison Begay, and I met Andy Sinigini, and I met Narcisco Beta. He was quite a character. He was one of my favorite artists. And during those times, I kept developing, but at that was my I guess my self-teaching years, I guess, because I had no clue what I was doing. I was just expressing myself on paper at that time. I wasn't doing canvas work at the time until later on. I think I didn't start doing canvas until maybe early 90s, maybe, after I started doing the shows and meeting other artists who encouraged me to try different things. And one of the things that I wanted to try was working on canvas. So that kind of pushed me in a different direction. And so far I've been, doing a lot of canvas work lately, but I kind of switch back and forth. Sometimes I feel like I need to ground myself, so I go back to the traditional, the flat traditional pieces now and then. But lately I've been working with a lot of texture and color. I've met some artists through this organization called Art of the People. And a lot of those artists, we do a lot of group projects. And when we do those projects, we kind of share with one another different techniques and different ideas about art. And one of the things I say that I was influenced by was the color. I was always afraid of color, and my earlier pieces were so pastel and kind of timid as far as color went. But as I got more bolder, I started doing more and more brightly colored paintings and playing with different color schemes and everything. So that was something that kind of helped me develop my style. People tell me that I have a unique style, and they recognize it right away, which is a blessing to me, because I don't want to do anything that's too similar to anyone else, but I try to just do me. And when I work, I think about a lot of things in my childhood and people who influenced me, especially the women in my life, my mother, my grandmother, especially my Nolly, my aunts on both sides of my family. They were all strong, independent women who were very resilient and creative, and that's the kind of woman I wanted to be. So in that light, I did what I could to portray the Navajo woman as strong and beautiful. So that's the basis of my work. But I've been also thinking about other universes. And mine is, things that happen, current events, and then things that influence me. Right now, I'm trying to work into doing a series about the COVID-19. And one of the first pieces that I did with that thinking in mind about this time is the one that's on the flyer. It's called Looking Back, Moving Forward. And when all this is happening, this painting, I was thinking about how and our past, and we see how strong our people were. We're still here, and we're still strong. And I think about my grandmother. She raised 6 kids by herself, and she never stopped. She worked all the way through her life, and she never stopped believing and hoping, and she was always smiling and working. So she was always important in that sense.
If you could talk about one of your latest trends, we briefly talked about it on the phone about how you're changing the position of the face in your paintings as well.
This is kind of like something different. I've been playing with faces lately, and most of my paintings, if you look at them, they have a sideways profile. I guess it's just that Navajo in me that says you're not supposed to stare at people. It's bad manners. But I guess I have a thing where I'd rather have a painting not staring at you. But this particular piece, I wanted to show the eyes, the face and the eyes, and express the hope and struggle that's going on right now. And she's looking back, but she's moving forward to a new horizon. There's a light at the end, and we don't know how things will. We hope good things for our children, and I guess the tree and the peaches represent life and represent sustenance. And I have all the little pots in the foreground, and those represent my grandmother. She always had those kinds of dishes, the enamelware, and so I always put pieces of those in my paintings, now and then. She also had peach trees in the back of her house, so that reminds me of her. So I guess that's why I put a lot of fruits and flowers in my paintings. Of course, I have 2 sons and a daughter, and people always ask me, why do you paint a lot of women? You don't paint any male figures. So I put the little boy in there to represent the bond between a mother and son. So that's what that painting is about.
Extremely well known. One of the things that I like out of your new works is just this ability to speak to all these different sides of femininity. I really enjoyed this particular piece, the protector piece that you have. If you could talk a little bit about this warrior woman that you have placed in the center of this particular painting.
This painting is titled Protector of Home and Family. And if you look closely, she has, you can't tell unless you look at it closely, but she has a baby on her back. And the baby is, you can't see it, but you see a piece of the cradle board sticking out behind her shoulder. And she's holding the arrows. Arrows are a sign of protection. And we women, we always protect our families and our homes, and we're very like I say, we're a maternal society, and most of the women that I know, they've always been there for their families, and they take care of the animals, they take care of the home. And the background is special to me in that it represents where I come from. You can see the fish point on the one side, on the right side, and then Balakai Mesa on the other. You can see the hogan represents home, and there's a little section of cornfields on the way the background. There's a black horse in the background, and that represents my mother's horse. She had a black horse that she had for many years that she really, really cared about, and he stated that he was part of the family. Her dress represents the old style veil dress that the women wore before we started wearing the other velveteen skirts and the calico skirts and the velveteen shirts. And then of course the birds, they represent a lot of different things, and here they represent freedom and flight, the sky, and the clouds represented in the background, storms coming. We can weather any storm, whatever comes along. So that piece represents protecting the home.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit, not only do you work on canvas and on paper, but you're published, right? Your work has been published in books. I know that you've worked with Salina Bookshelf to create this wonderful series for children. Could you talk a little bit about those books? I bring them up because I have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old, and they love them. And so they can relate to them in so many fashions, in so many different ways. They see the sheep and they see all the animals that we see at home. And so for them, it speaks to them. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about making of that series that you have out with Salina Bookshelf Publishing, and a little bit about what that series means to you.
The first in the series was Baby's First Laugh. I was approached by Salina Bookshelf to illustrate and help edit those books. At the time, I was going to NAU, and this is a long time ago. I think back in the early 2000s, I think. And it's funny because when I did that series, I didn't realize that they would last this long and they would be cherished by so many children. I was so excited to do it because I was like, oh wow, I can imagine all these little hands holding these paper, these cardboard books, and I wasn't. It was just fun to do, and then I thought about how much it would influence a lot of these young children at that age to learn how to count and learn how to express themselves in Navajo, and it was something special to me because when I grew up in California, and I didn't move back to the reservation until I was like 10 years old, so I lost that time between that time being absorbed into my Navajo culture. So I thought, well, I could be a help to those children that live in the urban areas and help them to be exposed to the language at that age and start learning how to count and learning about colors and all these different things. But that was a fun period of my life, and I still get, kids that were like, that are in high school now who bring their books over to have me sign. So it's so neat.
I'm not gonna lie, I like it. My sons may be some of those people because you see how not just the painting, but the painting in this storytelling format, which is very much what your work does. Your work tells a story. And even more so in these series, how they're able to connect these intergenerations through the artwork, and so for that, I'm appreciative in that capacity. I guess thinking about like your community, how do you see your artwork as impacting the community, your Navajo community?
I hope that it gives people a sense of pride in their culture, and I hope that I know that a lot of the Navajo women, they see my work and they go, ooh, ah, and it's like they understand it. They understand it right away. And I don't have to really explain it because they've been there and they know how it is to be a mother, how it is to see their grandmothers and how they used to dress, and the things they used to do, the weavers, the potters, the daily activities like herding sheep, all this, the scenery and all these things that we see when we were my generation anyway. We saw a lot of that growing up. I try to think, well, if I can preserve all that, those memories and those thoughts into my artwork, then maybe the future generations will be interested and want to carry on some of those traditions and be proud of who they are.
No, definitely. Definitely, we can definitely see that in the work as well. When you think about, because you bring up, these other traditional art forms like pottery and weaving and silversmithing, and you're very well. We'll talk about the markets in just a second because we know that you can find Beverly out there at all the markets. She always gets in. But one of the things that when you think about that, do you ever find any kind of contention between those contemporary like fine arts and what people have been trying to box in as cultural arts, or do you see them as all one expressive art form for Navajo people to explore?
I think that it's all open. I don't think there's any restrictions. If we look at it like we all have our own experiences that we portray, or I guess you could say the context of the times that we live in. We express those things at the moment. If you look at some art from the 18th century, you see stuff that happened in those times. Whereas things that are happening now, we are into the computer age and all this technology that's just coming at us so fast. My 4-year-old granddaughter has a tablet, and she was already using it when she was a year old, and it's just astonishing how fast these kids learn. But I just hope that they don't forget where they come from, and that they absorb good things along the way. I don't know if I'm getting out of context there, but maybe you can guide me in a more, I guess you could ask me the question again.
Oh no, we can go any direction you want to go. Everything's kind of really, really open. Have you ever explored any other art forms besides painting?
Well, when I had been painting for more than 10 years, and I decided to go back to NAU at that time. I started out with thinking, oh my gosh, I would like to teach art. So I went into the art education program. And when I found out you only need 18 credit hours of studio time, I was like kind of disappointed. I said, well, how come it's only 18 credit hours? The rest is all education. How can you teach students to really learn about art if you don't know a lot about it? So I decided to change my major to studio art, and that's when I started to get into different medium like sculpture, jewelry making, pottery. I tried everything, and I tried to absorb everything and learn from it. That's when I first got into oil painting, and I really loved oil painting at that time. It was a different medium. I had been using acrylics and watercolors before that, and I did some oil paintings, and I still work in oil now and then. But the thing about oil is it takes time, and it's a totally slow process. And I'm one of those people that likes to finish something right away.
Yep. My husband talks about that too. He's like, oh, well, this painting will be done in about a year. And I'm like, what do you mean in a year? He's like, well, it's oil, so it'll be done in about a year. what I guess has been the biggest challenge because your art form is your primary income at this point. So what has been the biggest hurdle for you gaining the type of success that's needed in order to make your artwork, your main livelihood?
Well, it's been a process for me. I've had to pay my dues along the way, and I've been doing this for a long time. I guess it's more like you have to network, you have to do a lot of footwork, you got to go make yourself available at the art shows, show your work, and be available to talk about it and explain it. And I've done a lot of shows, and mainly in the Southwest, but I've done a few, in the eastern part of the United States, and I've seen a lot of things. I've traveled a little bit, and I try to absorb all kinds of art and other people's work. I admire a lot of artists, and I've been influenced by a lot of artists, and but I think that I guess all you can do is just do your best.
Yeah, I guess trying as hard as you can at what your goal is. You mentioned that you have a lot of people. You've done a couple of name dropping in terms of artists who have influenced you. I guess could you talk about one of the biggest artists who has impacted your work or your life?
Oh my goodness, and so many of them. I can't pick one out. But more recently, I think I've been influenced a lot by artists like Elizabeth Whitethorn, who's an amazing artist. She depicts a lot of women like I do, but her style is so unique, and I just love her work. I have several of her paintings here in my house, and I've always been a big fan of hers. And then her brother, Bahi Whitethorn, he's been a big influence also. He's always been very positive and has given me a lot of good advice along the way. I met artists like Teddy Draper, who also kind of noticed my work, and he also gave me some pointers on what to do and how to market my work. But I still feel like I'm still learning, and it's been a long process, but I keep trying to do my best and express myself in all ways I can think of. And I hope that I always think that I hope that people who purchase my art will feel good about it. And right now I'm doing I started a small promo company called Blacksheep Originals, and you can see that on my Instagram. But I make these prints on coffee mugs and tiles and different things, and I wanted to share my work in a way that's usable and that people could enjoy. And when they pick up their coffee mug in the morning, and they can smile and say, "This is going to be a good day."
I like that. I do like that. I must confess, like I said, we're huge fans. So I have a couple of mugs from those. We do have some questions that are coming in from those people who have joined us through Zoom or who are joining us on Facebook Live. So I'm going to go ahead and pull some of those questions. And if you guys do have any questions, be sure to write them down. And Crystal's whispering into my ear, letting me know who's asking questions and stuff. So please don't feel embarrassed or shy. Definitely reach out if you have a question. One of the questions that we have, Beverly, is you brought up Art of the People. If you could tell us a little bit more about Art of the People and how you got involved with that organization.
Art of the People is a nonprofit organization, and you can get on their website. It's artofthepeople.org. and it's headed by Bahi Whitethorn. And we have, I don't know how many members on there. There's so many people on there. I can't count them all, but a lot of us, we network with each other, and we try to boost each other and build each other up. We try to help each other market. We try to do a lot of group projects. I think the latest, the two that comes to mind are the ones that we did for the Navajo Department of Transportation building. That's all done by Art of the People. There were so many artists. I think there were like 20 artists that did that project. We added our own flair into each piece that was drawn on the walls, and we donated paintings to add to that building. The other one was the project we did for Twin Arrows, which was a 10-day, 10 paintings project, and it was really fun to do. We had a lot of good, well-known artists, not only painters but sculptors and jewelers who helped with that project, and it was very everything came out really nice. I think it was nice to be able to work with other well-known artists and kind of get to know them and see how they work. But we have also done a lot of projects with children. We visit the schools and we do projects with them. We try to teach art and just encourage young people to be creative in every area of their life, all their aspects, whether they don't have to, choose to be artists. They could choose to be anything. And art kind of helps, I think it helps them to think more and be creative and know that they can push themselves to be anything.
It sounds like a really great organization. It's so refreshing to hear when artists come together to help each other. I deal a lot with different types of medias, and a lot of times what we're always dealing with is how people are like hiding from each other, or there's that competition, of course, that always exists. So to find an organization that brings together artisans for the betterment of future generations, it's really refreshing to hear. And so I'm glad that you were able to expand a little bit about on those things. Thinking about for example, the art shows, what's your favorite? So some of the art markets that I've seen you at, like over at the Herd or Swaya or the Ceremonial, which you did take the coveted poster piece a couple years back. What's your favorite part about participating in these art shows?
I think my favorite part is just meeting different people and showing my work. A lot of people, they have a lot of questions about the subject matter and the colors and the technique, and but I think I like traveling. I like the excitement of setting up and showing everyone what I've been doing lately in my latest pieces, and talking about them and learning from other people too, and getting their opinions on what I'm doing, and if I'm doing things maybe something different, or whether it's something that reminds them of something else. So I get a lot of feedback when I do these shows, and it helps me too.
We have two more questions before we start to close out, Beverly. I guess one of the second to last questions is, what advice do you have for artists, for future Navajo artists or people who are aspiring to succeed in the art world?
My advice is to keep trying, keep moving forward, and don't let people tell you you're not doing things right. But you have an open audience, and open everything is open to you, Try different things till you find that style that you're comfortable with. But always put a little bit of yourself into each piece that you do. I think that that's very important.
And then our last one before we start to close off, when you hear the phrase awołí, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Oh gosh, the first thing that comes to my mind is work hard and always do the best you can to achieve your goals and finish your projects or whatever you're trying to do. Work hard at it and be the best you can be.
You know, Beverly, I really wanted to say thank you so much for joining us. Crystal and myself, have always, when we see Beverly over at the art shows, we always walk by, we're like, there's Beverly, there's Beverly. So we're really glad that you were able to join us. You're such a wonderful person, so down to earth and honest. We have one other request for you guys. It has to do with our surveys. We always are collecting surveys in order to get feedback, not just to offer our feedback to the artisans, but we're also trying to always make sure that we keep our program growing and to see how we can develop our next lecture series, which will probably take place during the winter of 2020, 2021. So if you guys could go ahead and complete the survey, we're going to put the link to the survey right below in their comment section of this particular video. And if you could go ahead and do that, you'll be entered in for a raffle. Next week, we'll do a drawing for some NCAP gear. And then we have a really special raffle, thanks to Beverly. Beverly has so wonderfully and graciously given us one of her paintings so that we can raffle off. We are looking for not only to complete a survey, but after you complete the survey, if you could go ahead and tag a healthcare professional in the lecture itself or the video, then we can go ahead and we will enter that healthcare professional into a special raffle for this amazing painting. We'll get a picture of that up for you guys so you can take a look at it. It is based off of the COVID-19 series that Beverly was talking about previously, but that particular painting will be part of that raffle. So we have two different separate raffles. One is if you just do the survey and you get that survey back to us, we'll do a general raffle on those pieces for NCAP gear. And then we have one big one, which is if you do the survey and if you tag a healthcare professional, let us know where they're working at, and then we'll do a drawing of all those healthcare professionals and we will donate that piece to one of those individuals. So that's what we have here today. Beverly, is there anything else that you would like to add before we sign off?
I just want to say thank you for inviting me, and I feel so honored, and I'm kind of I say I was kind of reluctant because I was like this is my first time doing this type of interview, so I was a little bit nervous, but I'm glad everything worked out, and I appreciate everyone out there who have supported my work and enjoyed it throughout the years, and I hope everyone is staying safe and taking care of each other during this COVID-19. And thank you again for everything and all your support.
No problem.
I just want to say,
really,
go ahead.
If you want to find Beverly, Beverly, where can we go and buy your pieces from?
You can look at my Instagram, but I'm working on a website right now. It's still not out yet, but hopefully soon. I'm kind of transitioning myself from just doing the art shows and working with galleries. Since I can't do that right now, I guess I'm going to have to start thinking about my online stuff. So that's something I'm working on right now. So hopefully in the near future. But if you want to check me out on Instagram, we're doing a giveaway, and my daughter's in charge of that department right now. So if you want to look at the Instagram and maybe tag me and just see what I've been doing lately.
Yeah, everybody. So go stalk Beverly, go to Instagram, stalk Blacksheep Originals. So tag her, find her, and let's continue to support our Navajo artists and our Navajo people during this time and for forever, obviously. And you guys stay home, stay safe, stay healthy, and we will be back in 2 weeks. In 1 week, we'll be back for our drawing, and then we'll be back for another lecture in 2 weeks. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Beverly. We will see everybody in 2 weeks.
Hey, hey, hey,